Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, our Let's Play series against Evoken. It's been a little while since our last episode aired. We do have 3 turns in the hopper for today. We're starting with the turn replay of June 17th. We will then have June 18th and June 19th. So we do have some turns that have been going on in the background, but we've also had busy lives going on, so the pace of this game never completing until we are, 95 years old and the games won't run on modern systems anymore, it is going strong. The slow pace of Operation Glacier is assured. With that being said here, we're just kind of wading through the early phases of this turn. Does look like there's some anti-submarine activity going on off Japan. The submarine Polek. Getting pinged by some patrol boats, but no depth charges, so she seems to be safe for now. Meanwhile, we're into the air search phase of the turn, and we'll see what, if anything, happens. Japanese Betties hitting Coast to Coast Islands. There is a chance we may intercept Japanese raids there this turn. If they continue, we do have a British carrier on the move to that area, so if we do have our long-range cap meet up with a Japanese raid, maybe we'll get to swat away a few of the actual raiders, but we'll see. I don't know if that'll happen or not, and actually I don't think I have the desktop audio is off there. Sorry about that. I guess we'll see if we get a chance at that or not. I believe the carrier should arrive next turn in the turn 18 replay, but I can't for the life of me remember what happened. And so we'll see if we get any intercepts of Japanese raids. I'm assuming he's using Coast to Coast as a little bit of a training operation for some of his naval bombers, sort of a cheap chance to do that. Although they're at long range, so maybe he does have some intent to take Coast to Coast, which is why the Australians are there getting the hell blasted out of them. Man, that feels like that'd be a shitty assignment. We got 2 battalions on that island, way too close to the Dutch East Indies, but really just there is an area denial operation to defend the island to make sure the Japanese can't put float planes there. But all you get to do as a soldier there is just sit there and take it. Oh, there's a Dutch submarine with temporary repairs failing. We'll have to take a look at that. But all you get to do is you get to sit there and you get shot at, and you can't really shoot back because you don't really have much anti-aircraft. And yeah, so that doesn't sound like a fun existence with no apparent, it could be a year before anything changes and you might still have to be dealing with this. So, doesn't sound fun. But it seems like a pretty uneventful June 16th turn. Japanese are continuing to bomb at Clark Field. Yes, we have not surrendered there yet. It is mid-June. The Japanese still have 2 divisions tied up at the Philippines, although our troops there are gradually starving to death. And so I imagine we will attrit away to nothing soon, although perhaps not quite yet. We'll see if the Dutch submarine sinks. I don't remember what happens on the 18th at all, frankly. But this is the turn 17 replay. We're not going to bother jumping in and looking at the stuff in this turn because I'm not going to be issuing any more orders, right? We've already done the next 2 turns, or the next turn, and then the one after that's the turn I'm currently working on. So I think what we'll do here is we will look at the replay for the 18th here coming up, and then we will probably look at the replay for the 19th, and then we will actually, go in there and take a look at what we need to take a look at here. So one other thing that is worth keeping an eye on, hopefully anyway, is I believe the Prince of Wales is very close to getting to England, so we'll see how long, when she does arrive, how long it'll take to repair her. But just got the save loaded, so let's go ahead and load this one. Submarines are built to sink. What's that about? You want some submarine activity, maybe? Anyway, moving on to the June 18th replay. We just did the June 17th replay, and now we're moving on to the June 18th replay, second turn of this particular episode. And let's see what goes on. Intel said 35 ships at Rabaul, which seems tempting to bomb, except I don't really have anywhere to bomb from because the Japanese have pushed us out of Port Moresby. They pushed us out of the Solomons, and we've the Tennessee. Temporary repairs failing there. Did I send her back to the mainland? That seems bad if I did that. Okay, yeah, because we were trying to pull two battleships out of Pearl and send them to the west coast to repair more quickly. If we do have temporary repairs failing on the Tennessee, that's also not good. Japanese submarines continuing to fire torpedoes at our destroyers, which I'm totally happy with. If he wants to fire torpedoes at our destroyers, that is wasting fish that he will then have to presumably pull his subs back. I would think back towards Singapore, where he's got enough air cover to do resupply missions there. He could have some tenders along the Malay Peninsula, but those would be vulnerable to air attack if we ever got around to it. Looks like some missions canceled over Rangoon. Float plane over Nomaya. More bombing in the Philippines. Okay. We'll see if we get any interceptor raids over Coscos. If he doesn't fly, though, I wouldn't think he would be brought to the awareness that we have carriers there, so I think if he doesn't fly over Coscos, we've still got an opportunity to ambush him. Unless he's gotten some other sort of intel that the British carriers are at sea, because that ambush over Coscos to the west of the Dutch East Indies is being planned by the British fleet. The American carriers are in the process of either refitting in South Africa or rebasing to Hawaii after an extended stint in the Indian Ocean, where not much happened. Prince of Wales temporary repairs failing. No, you better not sink on the doorstep of England, of mighty old, jolly old England. I didn't think temporary repairs usually failed in off-map movements, but we've been moving at flank speed for a while. I think we're like 3 or 4 days away, so gotta make sure she doesn't sink, because she has a lot of damage. Meanwhile, that was a fast turn. Not a lot appeared to happen on the 18th. Looks like still more bombardment in the Philippines, so no fall there. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't just launched a fuck it assault in Bataan. Like, I get not wanting to lose the victory points in the squads, but at some point you just gotta do it, right? Like, free your resources up, let him go do other things. Although maybe that spends more supply than he wants to spend, but he's gotta know we're near the end. Nonetheless, that was a real quiet turn. Just the one bit of depth charging. I didn't see any further news about that Dutch submarine having flotation failures, so we'll see where she's at after the next turn, if she hasn't sunk already. And let's do that. So I do have to download the new turn, so that will take me 1 second, so just bear with me, but a pretty uneventful, you know, part of me wonders, like, do we just do something for the sake of the series, you know? Because it's been real quiet. We haven't done any, we've been very passive the last month and a half in-game, and I'm thinking maybe we need to do something. Like, we have done raids in the past. We raided Tarawa, we raided, or not raided, but we pulled some ambushes in Singapore. So maybe it makes sense to do some raids here at some point. It probably does. I'm just too much of a coward to do it. All right. So I got the download. All right. So this will be my first seeing this replay. How did those fighters get there? The world wonders. Ooh, I wonder if he ran into our carriers at Coscos now. I guess we'll find out. That's a little exciting. All right, so we're on to the turn June 19 replay. Third turn of the day. Busy day. Let's see what happens. Night phase at first. It doesn't look like a lot's going on. No real indication of submarines. Someone just had refueled and is remaining on station. Yeah, that's right. We have 2 carrier task forces headed toward Coscos. One is going to put a cap up over Coscos. Another is sort of a shielding force against a quick reaction force. If he sends like a small task force, we've got the rest of the British carriers a little bit to the north toward India. And they've got a replenishment task force with them as well to help bug out more quickly so we can use flank speed if necessary. But let's see what happens. I'm really hoping that something happens with us ambushing his Bettys or Nels over Coscos. 6 Nels. I wish it would. There were 6 Bettys coming in. I wish it had been more. But we've got some Wildcats, some F3F Wildcats up here ambushing these Bettys. Looks like we got one of them. And please give me more. We're damaging some of them. Got another one. I would like to think we got 9 Wildcats up in the cap now. Do we only get 2 or 3? Post-battle report shows 1. I think I saw 2 reports of shoot-downs, but those could be wrong. Meanwhile, the Japanese turned back. They had no escort, so it wasn't quite as bloody as it could have been. Probably not worth the fuel and resources that it took to, sally forth 2 British carriers. Really, the whole British carrier fleet. But hey, we did something, right? We shot an enemy down. Yay! Those are Marine Wildcats, by the way, operating off the light carrier Hermes. So they've been trained to be carrier-trained pilots now. Which I guess means he wouldn't know that the full British fleet is there. In fact, because of the type of squadron it is, it's a Marine squadron, he may not even know that the carriers are at sea. He may think the carriers are based out of Coast. Because they could be, right? We've got a tender there. We could work on a small level 1 airfield. We could throw a small task force of Marine pilots in there, and maybe that poses an opportunity. Maybe he'll send a bombardment task force in, and our carriers can sit back and ambush. It's a tempting proposition. But it is also kind of in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if I trust the British carriers, especially if he sends any kind of carrier task force to provide cover. That could get real bad real fast. The whole purpose of this mission was a fast raid, not a staying action. Meanwhile, we've got the USS Sea Lion getting depth charged off of Palembang here by some Japanese anti-submarine task force destroyers. That Dutch submarine has more temporary flotation failures, so she might be on the verge of sinking. I didn't hear any gurgling noises, so it doesn't look like she sank. But she could be very near there. I'm assuming she's down to like 1 hexa a turn, but we'll see. Good news is I didn't see anything further about Prince of Wales, so no further damage suffered there. We've got a bunch of corps bombarding the 32nd Division south of Guilin in China. Chinese front has been very quiet of late. And I think that's it for the turn. So we will jump in and take a look at the results here in a moment, once we get through this. Okay. And as I'm sure you are all anxiously awaiting, I believe I just won my fantasy football matchup. I don't know why it's still giving me a... Yeah, sweet. I know the world was wondering, just as they were wondering how those fighters got there. No U-boats tagging Prince of Wales. That would be an epic, if there was a way for the game to be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's limping through U-boat country. Oh, so they'll arrive in 1 day. Okay, flotation's not too bad. It'll arrive in England tomorrow. 39 major damage didn't go up at all. Engine damage didn't go up at all. So the flood damage looks like maybe it ticked up by 1. But, yeah, so we'll see how long it takes to repair her in jolly old England. The ambush, I suppose, I don't think we have the airfield. So what would have been nice for this whole cap mission is if I had prepared Coast to be able to receive that Marine squadron. They can support up to a level 2 airfield. They've got 0 right now. I was trying to get up to level 4 fortifications before I built the airfield. But we've got engineers and engineer vehicles here. We could build a level 1 airfield. And then we could throw the pilots off the Hermes and get them there, right? Like these 19 F4F Wildcats are actually Marines. They are trained and capable to carriers now, so they'll suffer fewer ops losses. Does look like maybe they lost 2 planes, maybe to ops losses. It looks like we've got 2 confirmed kills, at least total, for the crews here. T. Garrett and E. Dillo. I'm assuming any Japanese bombers that were either damaged enough to crash on the way home or shot down. They're far enough away that they probably won't be rescued. So those are probably killed pilots. If we take a look here, we go to aircraft losses last turn. We're claiming 3 Bettys, 2 shot down in air-to-air, 1 op loss, which feels reasonable, so about a third of the raid. None of our own aircraft were apparently lost. A very quiet turn. No ops losses for Japan. No ops outside of that raid, perhaps. No ops losses for the Allies. Out of 3,300 sorties, no one just crashed, which maybe that in our modern world doesn't sound out of the ordinary, but sure sounds weird to me, especially the way this game usually works. But I'll take some shoot downs of enemy pilots. We claim no KIA, wounded, or MIA. That seems unlikely for the enemy. Although I guess that's just our claims for ourselves. Yeah, so I had hoped maybe they'd send 14 or 15 planes like they had a couple of days ago. Repulse was involved in this attack, by the way. But we will almost certainly need to pull these guys back. The question is, do we send them south, Australia, or do we send them north, back toward the Bay of Bengal? We could send them to Perth. We do have those other carriers providing sort of a long-range, I don't know how I'd call it a screening force, but it's almost a fallback force, right? 2 more fleet carriers, Indomitable and Illustrious, hanging back here. I believe they... Why are these guys going home? I told them to remain on station. Or they... Yeah, why are they going back to Bombay? They topped this task force off with fuel, I'm assuming. Yeah. So these guys are all pretty much fully fueled up, so this task force is ready to run if they need to. But they're back here as sort of a long range if the enemy were to send a surprise force out that would catch us by catch us by surprise. The actual force up here near Coast to Coast is fuel situation's not great. The heavy ships are around 60, the light ships are around 50. The heavy ships can refuel the light ships. Some of those destroyers are at 80. So like 60 for a carrier is fine because you can still drop like 400 fuel out of there and replenish, full bunkers for a cruiser or a destroyer or something along. Maybe not for a cruiser, but for a destroyer, for example, that would be, a full load of fuel there. So the heavier ships have enough spare fuel to keep those other guys at least not flank speed, but at least refueled. We probably need to pull these guys. It's just a question of whether I want to send him down to Oz or whether I want to send him back to India. He could shoot the gap in the Strait of Malacca if he's got the task force ready at Singapore and try and interdict us on our way back to Sri Lanka here, probably fairly safely, if he's got something ready. So Australia might actually be the safer direction to go, almost like a shuttle raid. Maybe that would be where we'd want to go. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about it off stream. Meanwhile, I have been debating, there's one Japanese division here, south of Quilan, where it's like, does it make sense to try and, assault them? Chinese troops are usually not very good on the offensive. But if we do like a shock attack, we could either wreck 4 corps or we could wreck a Japanese division. Those are the options. It certainly would be worth it to wreck a Japanese division, but I don't know if 4 corps is enough. Like, one of these corps has the assault value of a Japanese unit. Their training and experience levels are not to that level, though. It is rough terrain, so they get ×2 defensive bonus. I don't know if they've dug in at all. I mean, we've been bombarding them. So we could move more forces down to try and overwhelm this division if we want to be more sure of it. But at that point, our intent becomes a little bit more clear. We have no indication of what he's doing in China, if anything. Maybe he's trying to preserve supply. I really have no idea. I've seen no movement in China since Evoken has taken over. I'm assuming an assault is coming toward Burma eventually. We still really haven't seen any indication of that either. We've got a brigade moving down to Tavoy to try and be a pain in the ass and take Tavoy away from him. I'm hoping this is just a garrison unit and that we can take Tavoy, because that's got a nice level 4 airfield, and I'd love to deny that to him, at least for a time, if he's going to be making a move toward Burma. I assume he has to. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming he really needs to because of what the strategic bombers out of Burma could do. We did get another 20,000 cargo into Rangoon here. Again, bombers here at Tavoy could shut down Rangoon pretty easily. Or at least initiate an air battle that would shut it down. We've got quite a few fighters in Rangoon itself. But we've also got plenty of supply there right now. We're at 78,000 supply at Rangoon. 55 at Pegu. 15,000 at Molmine. And then the rest of these bases all have several thousand sprinkled in there. 15,000 at Megawai. It isn't even a major base there. There's probably some spoilage going on here, isn't there? 15,000. No, that's within the supply limit. Why is there so much there? We don't have any big units there. Mandalay sitting at 7,000. Lashio sitting at 5, and then a little bit of it's trickling into China too, to try and help the supply situation there. Meanwhile, the troops in Clarkfield, oh boy. We knew they were starving, but oh boy. The starvation has reached peak starvation levels. It almost begs the question, would you want to... I mean, it's probably too late now. Should we have launched an assault a few weeks ago? We do have almost 700 supply at Bataan, which would be enough if we were to pull back, like... the 1st Filipino Division. That would give them more than enough to fully replenish themselves. Or the 2nd Filipino Army Constabulary Division. That would almost give them enough supply to full, but it would just be like one division would be okay and the rest would not. Are we moving someone back there? It looks like we are. I don't see who. But it looks, I thought I saw, it looked like there was a little icon indicating someone's moving. Maybe not. No, these guys are. The 4th Marines, the U.S. 4th Marines are moving back to Bataan. I suppose with good entrenchments, a Marine regiment could pose a problem for the Japanese temporarily, assuming these other units all don't congregate there and overwhelm the supply apparatus. Probably won't hold off 2 divisions, but you never know. We could maybe keep them there a little bit longer. We also still do have a division down here near Ilo, but their AVs are dropping rapidly. There's basically no supply there. These guys are wasting away. He seems content to let us waste away down there. Yeah, so that's the situation in India and Burma, or not India, but Burma. We've got a bunch of American aircraft in India now. You can see B-26 is here, doing training missions. How many do we have in reserve? 17? That's enough. We could also equip some of these guys with B-17s and hit them with heavy bombers. But I think we'll hold off on that. I think the 2-engine bombers are actually a little bit more useful. Trying to get their low-level bombing traits up so we can do skip bombing and things like that. In addition to those bombers, we've also got aircraft at Karachi. Quite a few. 272 American aircraft at Karachi. 101 at Bombay, 230 at Calcutta, not all American, 110 at Chittagong. Lido is pretty much all just cargo planes, of which we're starting to see a trickle of supply come through for those too. So we can start supplying over the hump to China, but we've got another 100 aircraft there. And then Lashio is another 24. So we've got a good number of aircraft, which is going to be important because while we do have 170 aircraft at Rangoon, these 3 fighter squadrons here of the AVG group are all going to need to withdraw on Independence Day of 42. So we are less than a month away. We're really just like 2 weeks away from these guys needing to pull out. So that'll be a hit of 75 fighter aircraft that we'll need to replace with new fighter aircraft, which we have training elsewhere. We already looked at the Prince of Wales. Whatever happened to the Tennessee? Where is she at? We saw temporary repairs failing. 47 flood damage seems high for the Tennessee. She is trying to make it to San Francisco. She is several days away from Pearl. It would really suck to lose like 200 victory points on a battleship that left and probably never should have. For that reason, we stopped at California, which is more damaged at 57, and we turned her back, and she's in Pearl for another year almost, repairing some critical damage there. We've got the Wasp on the way to Pearl. I think the Hornet is still chilling somewhere down here near Palmyra. She probably just pulled fuel off that replenishment task force. No, not quite. Now she pulled it off that replenishment task force, now that I click that button. We have a replenishment task force down here at Palmyra, which we just pulled fuel from. So that task force is now fully replenished. We've been unloading troops at Baker Island and some supply. We're almost completely. We've got just one ship left. The John Adams with a decent amount of supply still unloading. But you can see here Baker's up to about just shy of 4,000. For the Marine Defense Battalion, which took that back from the Japanese. I do want to take Canton from the Japanese too. We also took Vadapu from the Japanese and the Ellice Islands group. And my general plan, and I've started putting it into action, is to put a division or two toward New Caledonia and toward the New Hebrides Islands to start clawing back some of this territory from the Japanese. We are in the process of transiting the 8th Marines toward Melbourne. We are in the process of building up what will be the 2nd Marine Division here in Melbourne. Some of the troops are still at Savi. Most of them are either in Melbourne or on the way. These guys not low. How many of these are left? 8th Marines, 1,300 load cost. It's entirely motorized support. We don't even need a troop ship. We need a cargo ship to get them up. We've got them in port, so we can load one of them up. The port's big. It should be big enough to... It's only 6,000 tons. Can load at the docks. Do we have any 6,000 tonners in port? I think we do. I think a couple of these are. 62... We really not have anyone small enough? Oh, this one. It can only carry 900 cargo, though, so that means I still need 2 transports. Jesus Christ. And the transports are all over 6,000 tons. Just barely in some cases, probably like 30 tons. But alright, so we're going to need to send another small cargo ship there to get the whole thing moved. But nonetheless, in a couple of weeks, we should have the 2nd Marines forming in Australia. We've already got the New Cal Division in Australia. So... that's good. We've also got the 32nd Infantry Division in Australia. I don't know why she's working on Bangkok. You are not going to Bangkok from down here. Maybe Nomaya. I don't know. New Caledonia feels like the easy target, but maybe some of the smaller islands would make more sense. In terms of what else is going on, the Enterprise has arrived at the Panama Canal. So you're going to transit the canal this turn, and then you're going to be heading to Pearl. So once the Enterprise arrives, you've already got the Wasp there, or just about there. You'll have the Hornet returning soon. So you have 3 carriers at Pearl. We have 2 carriers undergoing refit in South Africa. Both will be done in 11 days, and then they will head back to Pearl to get us up to 5. And there's one other carrier somewhere. Yorktown. She's on her way to... Well, she'll be in Cape Town in 4 days, and then she'll be on her way to the Panama Canal and Pearl after that. So that's where we find ourselves on the 20th of June, 1942. We're going to pull these carriers back. I would have liked to have done more damage to the Japanese, but at least I made him think. Maybe he'll delay his further raids on Coast Coast until he can better secure those raids, or maybe he'll just give up on it altogether and leave these Australian pioneer troops, give them a little bit of a breather. I'm sure when they saw the carrier aircraft flying over the island, there was probably I'm imagining those guys down there are cheering them on. They're like, yeah! I don't know if the air battle took place too far off the island for anybody to witness it, but I'm just, feels like a scene out of a movie. Japanese bombers coming in again. Everybody hunkered down, ready to deal with another day's raid, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, F4F Corsairs zipping overhead, saving the day, almost like a Western with the cavalry arriving or something. Okay, so we got 67 F4Fs, F4F4s. These are F4F3s. We've got 17 of those. So we've got some aviation reserves for the Navy. Not a ton, but we've got some. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes of all this. That being said, I think that's all I got for War in the Pacific today. I don't know if there's anything else to show. I don't know if any ships sank over the last few days. I don't think so. '15th, we claimed some Japanese subs sunk. And then the Delawarean sank on the 15th as well. But I think that's about it for War in the Pacific. I think. All right, everybody, there you have it. We had an aerial ambush. There was actually a little bit of fighting, although I didn't get as many enemy aircraft as I would have liked. And we played through 3 turns. So I am still planning operations for this fall in the South Pacific. I don't know how quickly any of that will spin up. The pieces are still in place or are moving into place for those operations to occur. But I hope you guys enjoyed this return to War in the Pacific after a little bit of a break. And without further ado, that'll do it for today. So until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.